Hey, it's another beautiful day in Redmond, Washington. Now, I've got two things for you today. First of all, do you have an idea? I've got an idea, and I like to be able to talk about those ideas way before they become RFCs. Maybe the idea is not good enough to become an RFC, or everybody thinks that it's fantastic and it's got to become an RFC. Well, there's a place where we can talk about issues, bugs, problems, and ideas, and there's a particular idea that I want to get a chance to show you. Also, second of all, the second thing that we have going for us is a friend of mine stopped by and he started working on a guest configuration troubleshooter. I want you a chance to both meet him and see what he's working on, because if you're working in Azure and you're working with guest configuration, this might be helpful to you. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started and welcome to the show. PowerShell is a phenomenal cross-platform tool. A lot of us come from cross-platform environments. We work in cross-platform. We work with Windows and with Linux. Well, something's bound to happen when you work with two excellent products. You're eventually going to start noticing little things between them that you really like about one that you kind of want improved in the other. Now, that's not to say that one platform is better than the other, that Windows and Linux, that we're going to have that ridiculous conversation about competition, because quite honestly, the industry's proven both of them are excellent. The thing, though, still remains that there are times, though, when it just kind of makes sense. I want to show you an idea and a place where sometimes ideas are put that they can be discussed before they become RFCs. If you remember from episode 3, we talked about how you could help out by going out and viewing the current RFCs and commenting on them. Well, this is another way that you can help us, and you can help me by taking a look at issues. Now, issues aren't just bugs and problems. Sometimes an issue that's out there is an idea, and that's what I want to show you as one in particular. So let me show you where you can go to look at these issues, where you can comment on them, really help us out this way. And in particular, I want to show you an idea and get your opinion on it. So open up your favorite browser and go to your favorite search engine, whatever that is, and you can start to look at. Now, the last time that we did this, we went to PowerShell, PowerShell-RFC. This time, we're not looking at RFCs. I want to go look at PowerShell itself. And so what I'm going to do is just go to the GitHub for PowerShell, and this time, instead of looking at an RFC, we're going to go to issues right here at the top of the screen. Now, it's true that issues are a list of where bugs can be put, problems that you're having, expected behaviors, things like that. But you can also put in enhancements and ideas. And there's a particular idea I want you to notice. Now, I'm going to go up here to the filter, which says is an issue and is open, and I'm going to write the word enhancement. And you can see how often I actually do that in the drop down. And there's a particular enhancement that I want to show you today. And this one comes from, as soon as I can find it, here it is, a feature request. Provide more Unix-like views of files and features. And you can see that it's an issue enhancement. That's how it's been tagged, and it's by James Truer. Now, let's talk about this particular issue for a second. What James is talking about here, and I'm going to show it to you, but in a nutshell is, I don't know about you, but I use the ls command a lot. I use the ls command, not the alias of ls that points to get child item, but I use the actual ls command whenever possible. Reason is it provides me with useful information on the screen that get child item doesn't provide me on the screen. That information is available, but you have to dig a little bit more for it. And what Jim is talking about here is perhaps, maybe, changing how get child item shows the information to provide a more ls type of experience. Now, before all the Windows people start getting antsy about this, remember, cross-platform is a good thing. It allows us to find things that might be beneficial across both platforms when we manage them. This could be one of them. So let's take a look. So I've gone into this issue, and just for reference, it's number 10462. And what an issue here this is Jim talks about the feature enhancement. He even shows you an on-screen example of an ls command and the kind of information that you get from something like get child item. There is quite a bit of difference. The ls command has a mode list that is much more detailed. You get to know who the user or the owner is, what groups they're a member of. Some of us actually like the date time layout a little bit better, as opposed to get child item. It's not that you can't get it with get child item, it's just you have to work harder. So his idea is maybe we should improve this view. And there's a couple of different ways we could do this. We could maybe do this through change and get child item, but something that I kind of am thinking about is maybe we add a switch to get child item that allows for this kind of display. Now he talks about what this would look like and what it takes. And he throws this out just as an idea to discuss it with you. Now, if you're like me and you're thinking about this, and you think, you know what, this is a terrible idea, well, then you obviously want to go in here and go, no, terrible idea. Maybe you think it's a great idea, so you want to give him a thumbs up. And if you remember us talking about Joey's rules of do good out there, when you're looking at an RFC, also is the same as when you're looking at an issue. Hey, we need to know what you think, so giving us a thumbs up is a great thing to do. However, let's add a little bit more to it, shall we? So take a look. Down here at the bottom, you can write in your own comments, and I want you to notice that so far somebody has already given a nice thumbs up. And also there's been a couple of comments. Here's what I want you to consider. If you like the idea, sure, give it a thumbs up, but here's what we really could use. This idea may go nowhere. Nobody might like it. Nobody might vote for it. Everybody might think it's a bad thing to do. It'll die here. This idea might go somewhere if you tell us about it. Here's what we want you to tell us. Definitely give us a thumbs up if that's what you want, or give us a thumbs down if it's not what you want. But write something in the comments. The best thing that we could use right now is to understand what scenarios you have where it would or wouldn't work well for you. Now, notice I said both. If you're someone that agrees with this, write in the scenario where it would help you. This would help me when I'm doing large file moves and I'm trying to find XYZ. If this doesn't help you, write in the scenario where it breaks. In other words, this certainly wouldn't work if you added a switch option because it would break. I can't think of anything that it would break if we added a switch option, but you get the idea. It's important that we see more than just a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that we hear your scenarios. Now, look, the honest to God's truth is it may not go anywhere, but it's a good idea. And all ideas are good ideas at first, right? Until we get a chance to talk about them, because then we get a chance to see who it impacts, what it impacts, and maybe it would be too difficult to deal with. And I just want to point out, it's cold out here. At any rate, you get the idea. So go out, take a look at some issues. And in particular, this one, I'll put the link down in the notes that's down in the bottom for Jim's. This is one that I'm definitely going to comment on because I happen to be a big fan of the idea. I like it a lot. Well, let's get back to the next part of the show. The next part of the show is a friend of mine stopped by, and he started working on a troubleshooting tool for guest configuration in Azure. Now, if you're not working in Azure and working with Azure policies, guest configuration allows you to do some auditing inside of the VM and possibly some other things. Things like, do you have all the right modules installed in this particular VM? So this is a great thing to be able to do. But there's a challenge with guest configuration in that existing VMs that you may have out there may fall under an Azure policy, but they may not have a guest configuration policy. Without that guest configuration policy, you're not getting the results that you expect. So my friend started out by making a troubleshooting tool. Well, I'd like you to meet my friend Bar Benzavi, and I'd like you to wait to the very end, because unfortunately Bar's not going to be able to stay with us longer. His work will continue, but wait to the end to hear what he says. And just to let you know, we're going to have a lot more about guest configuration as we move forward. So here, meet Bar. So, Bar, how do we find the troubleshooting module that you put together for us?
Okay, so it's on PowerShell Gallery, so all you really need to do is open a shell and type in a find module, and the module is called Guest Configuration Troubleshooter. You should be able to just do that. Well,
and we'll see let's see what's it going to do.
It's just frozen.
Okay, there he goes.
There we go. Now it'll look for it. Should find my module and another one. So this one is mine.
Oh, so this is your, okay, great. So Guest Configuration Troubleshooter, it's in preview right now, and we're what, version 0.2? Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Still very early.
Now, the idea behind this is I've got my regular policies that I've had for some time. I've got some VMs out there. Guest configuration, though, lets me look inside of that VM. And one of the things it lets me do is like auditing, right? So I can like check for password policies, what modules are there, that kind of stuff. The problem is I don't know which machines have this new guest configuration and which ones don't. And your troubleshooter is going to help me?
Yeah, it can. So mostly it helps with if you assign the policies incorrectly, you know, it can tell you like what went wrong there, or if a machine just isn't being affected, there might be reasons behind that. So this tool can kind of find some of those reasons.
Oh, that's great. So you're saying that I'm going to assign the policies incorrectly?
If you're used to normal Azure policies, it's pretty likely. That's kind of what we've been finding.
Ew. Yeah. Okay, so, and this will then help me find those things that don't have those policies so I can correct them.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Can we see an example of how it works?
So you need to be logged into your Azure account to use this. And you just run this commandlet. You give it the resource group you want to check. So in this case, we'll do a demo resource group. And
that resource group, it obviously already exists. This is not making a new one. You've got a resource group, you've got VMs in it.
Yes.
Okay.
And generally it helps if there's, a guest configuration policy assigned to that scope. Otherwise, it'll just tell you a bunch of stuff that's kind of, it's related to that, but it might not get you the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah, so this is assuming we're going down this path of assigning guest configurations, and I just need to find the boxes that aren't doing it, right? Yeah,
so basically it's kind of, we're assuming that like if you're using this tool, you've already run into an issue and you have a starting point. So like, for example, I've made this resource group, I've assigned a guest configuration policy to it, and I've created a VM in that resource group, but for some reason it's not working as I thought it would. I would have that starting point, and then I would run the tool, and it would kind of tell me what went wrong. I didn't store it in an output object.
Well, that's okay. We can store it in a variable and play with it. But the important thing is he's going to run right now, and he's going to go out there and do what?
So basically, it gets a bunch of information from all of the policies assigned, or that are affecting that VM that you gave it, basically. And then it also checks for a couple of things on the VM itself. And then after getting all that information, it can kind of figure out what things went wrong, and it can tell you what went wrong, basically. So in this case, there's a guest configuration policy assigned, but it's not in its pair. So guest configuration policies always need to be in a pair. But in this case, it's just a single policy.
Now explain that. They need to be in a pair?
Yeah, so guest configuration policies are always made up of two policies. So there's one that's the audit policy, and that actually does the work. So that's what would go into the VM and tell you, are the right modules installed, or is the password secure enough, right? And then there's also the deploy if not exist policy, and that puts any requirements for that audit policy to work on the VM itself. So it puts an extension on the VM, and then the audit policy goes through that extension in order to access all the information that it needs.
And that's for the guest policy?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, what we're getting back here then, is it basically saying that, well, it tells me that I've got unhealthy policies in the scope. What does that mean to me?
Well, it should mean that basically you have probably either assigned a policy incorrectly or something went wrong along the way. So the most common scenario is the one that I mentioned, where there's just one half of that pair. That happens the most often.
And you had mentioned that a lot of people miss it because it's different to assign the guest configuration policy, and that's why they're probably missing this in the first place, and
Yes.
this helps identify those machines that are missing that pair, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, that's kind of awesome. It's not kind of awesome. It is awesome. So one of the ways that we'd probably do this is what? Store it in a variable, right? So we can start to look at some of the properties?
Yeah, so you can kind of get like an overhead view from the information here, but if you really want to dive deeper into like which policies have these issues and like whether the VM itself is healthy, then you'd want to store it in a variable and go into check results, which is where I'm kind of putting all the information that I got from my checks. So,
and why don't you kind of show us that here as soon as he comes up? But in the meantime, oh, there he is. So this is really something that I'd probably fire against a resource group with a bunch of VMs in it to tell me which ones. And that's really where the troubleshooting power of this comes out, right?
Yeah.
It's really helping me, especially, you know, this is right now it's a preview, it's new, right? But eventually this could be something that I can just automate and say, hey, tell me who's not, you know, meeting the requirements that I've set up, who's not getting their pairs, who's not getting their guest config. And then I can then just effectively go out and remediate that.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, well, I kind of like that.
That's, I mean, it might be a little bit harder to do that in the current state, but in the future, we're kind of planning on adding more things that will help to automate the tool.
Yeah, and the best thing is that since this is available now on the gallery, people can download it, start to work with it, and give us some feedback, right?
Yeah.
And that way we can make sure that the ideas in our head works with the ideas in their heads, and we all kind of work together on it. I love that. Oh, so check results, yeah.
Yeah, so this is an array of all the results of the checks, and it's formatted really nicely. I didn't set that up. PowerShell just kind of did it for me, which, you know, I'm very happy about that.
So what does it mean, though? It says like the MSI and the guest configuration extension, so that all successfully passed.
Yes.
And it's yelling at me about the audit results from the Windows VMs do not have the specified modules. And
yeah,
okay.
So this is the policy basically that was not assigned correctly. And so if we wanted to look a little bit deeper at that, we could access the array index, right?
Oh, this is good. I'm glad you did this. So right now, in our current use of it, we can go into that array index. And this is where I always screw up, because I always start counting like 1, 2, 3, and it's 0, 1, 2. So that's what came up with. So now we're looking at that. Okay, great. And so what does you've got warnings, errors, and details.
Yeah, so the warnings and errors are pretty much just what I printed up here. But if you wanted to see that again, so say you had like a lot of warning and error messages and you just kind of wanted to see specific ones, you could access that on the actual like check, I guess.
Oh, great.
So this will tell you all that same information. And then the details is kind of, if you want to dive even deeper into this check, we've got a couple of really useful things in here. So there's the assignment and the definition, which are like what I'm checking in the tool in order to see whether or not the policy is like working as intended, I guess. So you could get to all the same information that I look at, and you could get to the same conclusion that I do. And in this case, the policy that was assigned incorrectly was built in. So I can actually tell you exactly what policy you would have to assign along with this one in order to have it work, basically.
Got it. And I like one of the things you pointed out is that, you know, this information, I could drill down and figure this out too in a few hours or a few days per machine if I wanted to. But you're doing this all for me, so this is awesome. Oh, this is great. This is great. And so right now this is up on the gallery. It's available. You can use it to help start to, well, both remediate if you wish, but also locate and troubleshoot some of those problems with VMs.
Yep.
Dude, this is awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And I probably should mention this is also your last day.
Yeah. So I'm an intern here at Microsoft, and today is my last day. So any new changes on this tool will probably not be from me, but I think I'm passing on to a very capable team. And yeah, I don't know, I really enjoyed this internship. I think Microsoft is a great company.
Well, I got to tell you, we certainly enjoy having you here because look at this great work. So thank you very much. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, with PowerShell, solve your problems, automate the world. And hey, help somebody.